Hello, I am Ann Weed Kimbrough, co-founder of Good Genes Genealogy Services and your Hillside International Truth Center genealogist. In the presentation you are about to view, you will hear from participants of our monthly Hillside Sankofa Ancestry and Genealogy workshops. This short presentation highlights the ongoing journey to reclaim the ancestral heritage of one man and his family from Georgia. You will also hear additional stories, told from the perspective of free African Americans and their African diasporan ancestry. Together, these stories reflect how genealogical research moves beyond surface-level searches into deeper historical understanding. Hidden records emerge slowly, often in fragments, yet with growing clarity, care, and purpose. What begins as a search for names, places, and dates evolves into something far more meaningful: a reconnection to ancestral lives shaped by resilience, survival, and enduring legacy. Through patience and persistence, these participants are reclaiming narratives long obscured by time, migration, and history itself. This work is not simply about tracing lineage, it is about restoring memory, honoring those who came before, and affirming the power of knowing where we come from. And now, without further ado, I present Roots Revealed, Stories of Genealogical Discovery. From the very beginning of the Hillside Sankofa Ancestry workshops, Clyde White arrived carrying his story with him. He already knew pieces of who he was. He knew that across the ocean, in Liberia, there is a place named for Maryland. He knew his Maryland ancestors were boat makers, craftsmen, people who understood water movement and survival.
When people meet me, they will see a smile or someone who loves to talk, create a bond. And that's what I got from my family, mom and dad's side. We were close. It's a small area where they were born. Their hometown is called Dames Quarter, Maryland. Now, as black folks, we didn't say Dames. It was Dames Quarter, Maryland. That was home for us. It was right off the water, marshland, and my father's father, mother, mom's dad and mother, they're all from Dames Quarter, Maryland. I went to Salisbury High. Beautiful school. It was in my neighborhood where I lived in Salisbury. And it was most of the teachers, a lot of the teachers lived in the neighborhood. We were a community. I say community and not neighborhood. Self-sufficient, we had our own stores. It's just a beautiful neighborhood. We were colonized. There were certain areas where there were blacks. We had our black stores, we were self-contained in our neighborhood. Every mother on my block was my mother. If I go down the wrong road as a child, my mother knew it. I may have gotten a spanking from another mother, gotten that spanking from mom, but that's how our neighborhood was. We were built to be a neighborhood.
Clyde has always been a seeker, not just of names, but of motion, how his people moved, why they moved, and what they built along the way. What he was searching for wasn't missing history, it was clarity, a guide to help separate legend from documentation, while still honoring the spiritual and cultural truth held inside family memory.
Well, I'm a product of Clyde Thomas White Sr. and Florence Wesley Jones White. My mother and father had a fifth grade education, but he had the mindset if you give him nail, hammer, lumber, he could build anything. He built his own chicken coop. I mean, that you walked in covered. But my father's mind was like that. He could look at that, look at an object and recreate it. And I got a lot of that myself. My dad taught me how to use the tools. And that's one thing my father, fifth grade education, very proud to be his son. Mom, Florence Wesley. Her sister, another good old country name, Ethel. Ethel Jane. Mom, my mother was a seamstress. I think she made about, I'll say, 85% of her clothing. She worked at a sewing factory, but her main thing was she was a beautician. My mother was a beautician for maybe over 60 years. Mom loved being a beautician. I approached my mother one year and said, Mom, let's go into business. Let's have a beauty supply store. No, I don't want to do that. I just want to do hair. And she did it well. She did it well.
Clyde made a deliberate choice to follow that wandering path of ancestry. What was meant to be 2 focused hours together quickly became 4, because once the records began to speak, neither of us wanted to stop listening. On screen, family trees unfolded, documents surfaced, trails stretched across generations, and something shifted. This wasn't curiosity anymore. It was revelation.
I even asked my sister, who is 8 years older, how did Mom, that side of the family, get their last name? And she said, the slave master. Now, my father's side, their last name is White. So I don't know if they just went with a slave master or whatever. I'm not sure. It's something I'm still trying to find out. Harriet Tubman, I'm going to just throw that in there because she lived in an area about 30 miles from our hometown. And it's called Cambridge, Maryland, right outside of Cambridge. And I have a strong feeling there's a lineage between my mother and Harriet Tubman.
I watched recognition take hold. The moment Clyde realized his history wasn't distant or abstract, it was living, personal, and waiting to be claimed. He spoke of brilliance that seemed to echo through his bloodline: James Baldwin, Charles Dutton, and with laughter, hope, and determination, we wondered if Frederick Douglass himself might yet be found among his people.
I'm still tracking, to be sure. And I keep forgetting this name. Can I go to the audience and say, what's the name? James Baldwin. Okay. I found out that James Baldwin related to my mom, or they're related. And my mother was a Jones, but she married a Jones. And James Baldwin's mother, Emma Jones, James Baldwin was born a Jones, but he took on his stepfather's name, who was a Baldwin. My mother's first husband, Thomas Jones, directly related to James Baldwin. But also, my mother was related to him also. My sister mentioned a story when she was young. She was in Chester, Pennsylvania. We had great uncle and aunt up there. And James Baldwin was there, and my great aunt Louise, my sister's name is Louise, mentioned to my sister, this is your cousin. So James Baldwin. And in doing the Ancestry It's amazing. Quincy Jones popped up, and about a month after he popped up, I went to get my hair cut, and my barber said, "Man, you look just like Quincy Jones," after he finished. And he said it again about a month ago. A gentleman's name, Charles Dutton, also came up. And there's a lot of Duttons in my hometown or in the surrounding areas. So I went to school with about 5 or 6 Duttons, my age. So it's a common name, really. But I have a common name. Last name White, last name Jones, from where my mother and father are from. That's the prominent name. We are Joneses, Whites, Wake Falls.
Through the work, Clyde stopped seeing scattered names and began seeing a continuum: makers, thinkers, freedom seekers. What began as exploration became affirmation. His story was no longer something he simply admired. It was something he could own, document, and pass forward.
I'm 74, I'll be 75 next month. Only thing I have to hold on to is the memories. Because unfortunately, a lot of the people, they've made the transition. It's only about 2, 3 left from my neighborhood that I know of. I'm the only one in Georgia. My kids are in Maryland. Oldest child is in Colorado. But we talk to each other basically every day by email. Good morning, family. And we go from there. So for my kids, grandkids to know, cousins, it doesn't matter. It's family. And I want this generation to know about. And that's the best thing a family can do. So they can pass it on. Seriously. And I say it like that because I'm going to go out on a limb to say this. I've seen other nationalities get around a dinner table, and you see it on television. They're talking about Papa, Grandma, great-grandma. And some of us do not take that time to pass that information around. I want it to continue. I do. They need to know. There's one thing I really want to do, and hopefully I can do it next year, is get my kids together and ride back to Dames Quarter, Maryland. Because I want them to see, I think my grandfather's house on my mother's side is still standing, but I want them to see the area. This is educational. See where you come from and appreciate what your grandfather, great-grandfather, great-grandmother, grandmother, they've put in you. You are a part of this, and that's very important. To where you, as I say, know where you come from, and that's very important.